So you plug in a bunch of numbers, right, and then have it basically loop over it, or just access the two weights for the one.
Where the things that you wrote down for that one thing, you just described it.
Correct. You don't need it. Okay.
So could I potentially do scanner K and then plug in K into the
Well, this looks good. Right? You created the order, right? Maybe I'll do the first one here. I'm giving you guys enough time to struggle.
I did create the order, but like, could I plug in K?
You're gonna use here. I'll just show you how to do it. Yes, sir. This one here. Does it say cannot find symbol order? Did you save the order class in the same file, same folder? Does your order class compile first?
I tried something else.
Yep. Cool, so I'm getting a couple questions about what to do next, right? I'm going to give you guys some hints. So potentially we'll put in a prompt. So system.out.println, right? Inputs and x, y, name, and weights. Right? Then we'll basically read them in. So I'm going to actually get rid of these two, my example stuff from before. Right? So int x equals, maybe x1 is equal to, right? How do I read it in the first int? How do I use my scanner to read in an int? Next int. Right? So there's my x1. Right? I need a y1. So int y1 is equal to, how do I read another int? S.next int again. No, it's the same call, right? So the first time, right, we're going to read in the first number. Right? The second time, we're going to read in the second number. Right? Then we need to read in a name. Right? So this is string name1 is equal to s.next. Right? So you can see over here, right, our next is going to read in a string. Right? And the last one, right, what type is my weight? Double w1 is equal to, any guesses as to what method we're going to use to read in that? Next double. Right? Money, money. Right? Cool. Then we take in our x1, y1, name1, and w1. Right? We instantiate a new order. So we'll have order O1 is equal to new order x1, y1, name1, w1. Right? Let's just compile here just to see if this works. All right, so mine works. We'll see if yours works. And then, let's do the last step here. So we have R, right, 0 equals O1. Right, so what that does is that adds my order to my array. Right, cool. So if you have successfully done that, again, your goal is to build a second one, add it to your array, and then access the two weights of the values in your array. Right, cool, I'm going to pause. Yeah, it will.
It will have different values every single time.
Correct. Right. So this is for free. Raise your R. And then you'll just do R x equals whatever. Wait, hold on. Choose first. So it reads the first one. Right? Yeah, I guess it depends what's going on. So it reads the first one, right? And then you're calling the scanner next to the scanner so that it's waiting again.
Oh, wait, no. Better if you just made this one.
You could. That would work too. I was just showing one example.
Yes.
Alright, so let's see. Cannot find symbol. What symbols are talking about? Cool. What is your order class called? It's called the order class. So for you, it's going to be the order class, or alternatively, you can go in here and rename this thing to order.
Have you used any of these variables?
Cool, so you have a compiler order class.
Order?
Okay, so try compiling this thing.
I'm guessing because you saved them in different folders. So you see how this one's in unit 1 maps and this one's in units. So potentially you can keep both of these 2. I'm going to go in here and pull out everything. New errors, at least.
I have a question.
How do you use
Yeah, so similar to how we basically, remember how we basically took inherit and transferred robots? This is kind of what we're doing here. We're reading in variables, and then we're reinstantiating instead of robot. We can we're using those. It looks like it's the same. It doesn't know what main one is.
Why is it green?
Oh, I see. So that's all we've done is we just created a new object. Same way we did it. And then we did this thing is like two. What we just use this thing out. First one is actually row, second.
Oh yeah.
So that basically
Oh.
What is this one?
Why do you need? Okay, I just need to.
Double the other one.
So there's all the data.
This is the order. The reason it is. Put the word it is.
Yeah, right. So you could just mark and stick it in. Or you could just read X2, Y2, order.
Extend order.
You'd be better off having it.
You can't.
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, it's great.
Okay, Johnny, come here. I need help.
How do I get How do I use this again? How do I use the get here?
Our square bracket
Does it have to have a variable? A dot get y or something?
When this is what I didn't run.
I didn't think that. That was on.
Wait, so once it's stored, you store how long does it take?
I have no idea what they work on. It's I just know I can probably.
So how do you access the first one?
No, this works.
You only access one thing, and everything else.
Can I make like an integer equal to this? So I do like
Into an array without like bloody.
Basically, you input something.
Oh,
Boom.
And
There you go.
I have no idea what.
Oh my god, it works. It worked.
Wait, Aaron, can I see what you did with loops? It's not bad.
Oh,
Wait, let me think that over. Trying to think that.
trying to process it.
The system not out.
So,
Okay, wait. Oh, like it should.
I didn't know I said that.
Right, what does line 9 do?
Nope. No, please don't. It's my car. Stop it.
it's a long answer.
Accidentally made
I'm not going to answer that. So what I would say for now is number one, you're smart enough to Google yourself and you probably will. So for your program, I would pick one or the other and do that for the whole program. Right? Don't switch back and forth. You're going to
Oh, and the other thing is that when I try to run the program, for some reason after I put the value, they print these two together. I wonder why.
Because you use more.
Whenever it is next and whenever I was
correct. It won't work. It's an underscore. Yeah. You're
Oh,
right.
okay, that is
That's correct. Okay, I'm done.
Hurry.
Hey, it works.
Implement this
Yeah, there's why do you implement this order?
So we're basically building an array of orders so we can have multiple orders, right? So think of it like a shopping list. Right? So I have
Oh,
give me
there
one second. Sure. You only have 10,000 orders. Right?
What?
So next week, what is next week?
It's reading. It prints
Allows us to type in something. Right? So let's say, so right now you're waiting for these things, right? So it's waiting to take in X. Type in number X. Now here, we need to type in another
Yeah,
right? And then string Z equals S dot X. So it wants a name for your okay, and then it wants a double. So if you run this on debug mode, it's geo.
No, we have
Wait, hold on. Sweet.
Uh-oh.
Great.
Hi.
That doesn't answer the question. What was it?
I mean, it's awesome.
Fun, dumb, boring. Well, what you've written is good. One thing I'll say is tab back. Yeah. You're gonna have issues later on.
Yeah, like
Although I keep saying that.
so you don't have a no, I'm actually happy.
Yeah, so I'll go back to the document, which kind of like probably 3 days.
It's better for me because now I don't have to bother competing with like so many
Guide for going through.
I have a pretty good chance of getting the same score.
Is that in the driver?
Yeah, in the driver.
In
So
lower
they
roll
type in 3
bit.
different items, you can calculate the rate. And you can also actually hard code into the 418 text file if you want to do that also. I don't want people to read the text.
I love you.
There is, what you've done is good, let me start with that. With that said, if you look here, so what does this do here? So you can basically take that stuff and stick it in a loop.
Is there also more
You can take the first one.
I don't have to go to
So you can do reset all this. So you can do SC dot next into here. That's it. SC dot next into So it doesn't right? So you don't even need, you were talking about like instead of anonymous, right? You can get to all these things you want to. Right, so you can do the whole thing in one line of
Oh yeah, the Chris, right? Yeah, Chris got a lot of stuff.
Cool, so picking back up from where I left off. Right, you could, if you wanted to, copy paste. I'm not going to because I think I will end up learning more. Hypothetically, me being a student, by actually typing it out. Right, so we got system.out.println, input more data. Right, and then same idea, we'll have, and I'm actually, this time I'm not going to use different variables just to show you a different way of doing it. Right, so we can have order 2 equals new order, right? So I want to read in another x, y direction in beepers, right? So I'll just use s.nextInt, right? s.nextInt, s.next, and s.next double, right? So that just basically builds the whole order. Oh, I didn't give it a type. Sorry, order O2. Is that what you're going to ask? Oh. You can definitely use a for loop for this as well, right? And there's a good example of that with the widgets instantiating objects in the document, right? So I now have a second order named O2, right? I'm going to stick it in my array. So R, right? What index should this go in? Too hard or too easy of a question? 1, right? Right, we've already stuck something in index 0, right? We want to stick something in index 1 now. Right, so R1 equals O2. Right, so if we were, let's, at this point, I'm going to system.out.println R0.getWeight. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, well, I'm going to run this on debug mode just to kind of show you what this looks like. All right, so we can see, give me an int. I'll maybe type in all 4. So we got 1, 1, oh gosh, what do they want to order? Rice. And it weighs 0.3 kg. All right, so if we start stepping through here, all right, so x1 has a value of 1, y1 has a value of 1, name1 has a value of rice. Right, W1 has 0.3, right? We instantiate this new order, and you can see this little ticker guy over here, same as in the robot world, right? We can see the different values of our instance variables, right, of this object, right? And then R0, right, currently there's nulls in here. Once I run this line of code, right, this thing's going to change to an actual object. So you can see it actually went in my array successfully. Right? Another way of looking at this is if you take this object and you actually drag it out, right? You can see here are the different values in my array, right? Yes, JGrasp is awesome. Eventually, once we write a toString, which we'll be doing eventually, right? This thing will make more sense. For now, if you try to print out an object without accessing its data, that's what you get, junk, right? Cool. So input more data, right? I need to input an x, so I'll do 5, 3, right? Name is spaghetti. I don't know how to spell it. And it weighs 2.3 kilograms because I'm super hungry, right? And you can see I instantiated O2 at the bottom down here, right? It doesn't have a name for its variables, right? Folks that are doing other stuff, if you could just whisper, thank you. Right, we put that in R1, and again, you can see there's my R1, right? So there's now an order in there. It was blank before, right? And then we print out R0.getWeight. So what that's going to do is that's going to go into this thing and call the getWeight method of my order. Where is it? Of my order. So getWeight right there, right? Return weight. So that's what should happen is it should return this 0.3 that I typed in for rice. And you can see, right? Boom, boom. There we go. Yes, sir.
I have a question. Whenever I press compile on mine, it says like I cannot find the symbol order. Do we have to like import something into it?
So if you are getting an error that says cannot find symbol order, it is one of two options. Option number one, your order class does not compile, right? That's possible, right? Option number two, you saved them in different folders, right? So if you saved them in different folders, it doesn't know how to find order, right? And I think people in here have gotten both of those varieties of errors. Right? Cool. So where we're going with this stuff, right? We want to basically be able to get different data out of this thing, right? So you can see kind of going back to our document here, right? We've talked about scanners for a bit, right? We talked a bit about our stuff up here, right? So again, if you need a reference for how to actually do this stuff in a loop, you can do that as well, right? So this is one way of doing it, and we could put our scanner stuff in here as well, right? So we could actually read in values in our loop and initialize it to different indices, right? So that's definitely an option. And then kind of going forward, right? So I updated this thing a little bit. So first attempt, hard code an array of size 3, ignore your scanner argument, right? You are welcome to do that. You can also just use your scanner. It's kind of up to you, but basically figure out a way to get some data in your array, right? Then what we want to do is we want to actually be able to calculate the weight of items. Now there's two ways to do this. One is just in your main method, but the better way to do this, and what I really want to have us practice, is actually using a class method to do this, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a double average weight, right, is equal to calc average weight, right? I'm going to pass in my array, right? Then I need to write another method down here, kind of similar to what we did from back in the day, right? Just kind of like take the field, we take in a variable, right? We do some stuff with it. This one is actually going to return something, right? So it's a public method, right? Since it's a class method, right? It's associated with this driver program, right? We need to make this guy static, right? The return type for calculate average weight. Any guesses as to what the return type for that should be? Double, right? The average weight is going to be a double, right? If we average them all together, right? And I'm going to write the same name, average weight, right? And this thing is going to take in this R, right? What type is this R again?
Array.
Right, it is an array of orders, right there, right? So I'm just gonna, you can see right here, order array, right? And I'm gonna call it R, maybe R in. So you'll note that I actually had to pass this thing in as an argument, right? And that's because the scope of this variable, right? We've talked about this a few times today, right? What is the scope of this order array that I have? I'll try to make this a bit smaller so we can try to see more stuff on the screen at once. What is the scope of this array right here? Is it the whole class? No, cool. Talk to your neighbor. What is the scope of my order array? Talk to your neighbor.
Oh, yeah, it's everything in the array, and then you just keep looking for the fourth element, just the third element. No, because like you want to get all the arrays, all the order arrays, you want to get all the W's from all of them. And you want to add all of them.
Cool, let's bring it back in. Cheryl, what'd you guys say? Cool. Let me ask you a different question. What did you guys come up for? What does scope mean? You're not that sure. Cool. Thank you. Matt, what does scope mean?
It's kind of like what's defined in like what set of brackets.
Uh-huh.
So like order's defined in the set of brackets, which is like the main string.
Uh-huh.
So it's only going to be defined out there. So if you try to plug in order outside of the main strings, it would just like not find the class.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's the part of the code where we can use a specific variable, right? So since array is declared inside of our main method, we can only use it in our main method, and we cannot use it in this calc average weight method, right? So therefore, we need to pass it in to this other method here, right? This calc average weight, and then do our calculations over here, right? So I'm gonna, we got about 5 minutes left, right? This is potentially a challenge for you guys, right? You'll note that it's gonna involve creating a sum, right, at 0, right, loop over your array, right? And then eventually return a calculated value. Cool. This method right here is going to be your homework. Is that going to be on Schoology? I will stick it on Schoology. Yep. You got about 4 minutes left or 3 minutes left in here. So work with your neighbor. Either get caught up to this point or alternatively work on this method here.
It's already there. Go. This is great. This should work.
So when I say run, you know, if I want to put on
What's going on?
and then X, it just keep going.
Wow. Yay.
So then I
No, I know what it is. Cool. So,
where's
What? R and I. Some.
Why?
Now, what's that?